walking on the sea is Mark's way of giving us two messages about Jesus. First, his night in prayer feeds his soul and keeps him from drowning in life's worries, allows him to walk on top of that. Second, Mark raises Jesus above Moses, another in their history who freed the people, suggesting that Jesus is the new Messiah. And you may remember that Moses, when he got to the Red Sea, had to part it to get across. Jesus doesn't have to part it. He just walks on top of it. Jesus has more power than Moses, is what we're being told. And of course, these are both metaphorical narrative. Mark then continues to build on Jesus as the new Messiah in the next two stories. His popularity continues to grow. And now, we're told the whole region rushes out to see him. It's not just a few hundred people, it's thousands of people that are gathering to see him. And all who touched even his cloak were healed. You'll recall that we had a woman a few weeks ago who touched the hem of his garment. It's the first one that's healed. Now, everyone who touches his cloak is healed. For people who lived lives in constant fear and oppression, this free-spirited, gentle, and compassionate man became a beacon of hope. But at the same time, the religious authorities are becoming fearful of Jesus' growing influence. And once again, they challenge him to explain why his followers do not follow the tradition of the elders, why they don't wash their hands before they eat. Well, we know that's a good thing to do, but it's not the end of the world. These tradition of the elder laws were at the very heart and core of the purity laws, of which there were 619. And here is where that bumper sticker resonates once again, that faith is a journey, not a guilt trip. Jesus broke from a faith that was based on beliefs and obedience to God in favor of a faith based on compassionate belonging and a journey in God. A journey in God. And Jesus is no longer gentle with the religious authorities, publicly calling them hypocrites because they have abandoned the commandment of God that we love one another in order to hold to human tradition, to hold to doctrine and beliefs and laws. And then Mark brings us full circle with the parable about what goes in does not defile, but what comes out defiles. It is all about nurturing our souls. It goes right back to this story on the seaside. It's nurturing our souls. Being well in your heart so that your actions bring life to yourself and to others. Washing your hands before you eat won't bring you life in God. But offering your hands to another will. Hardened hearts will never make the journey in God. And then just to make sure Mark's readers now understand that Jesus is the anointed one, the new Messiah, Mark has Jesus restore life to a deaf mute. The fulfilling of the prophecy in Isaiah that says the new Messiah will make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the mute speak. It is important to remember that the Messiah in this culture was always understood to be a human being, a human one, filled with the Spirit of God, and was never actually God. Mark recognized by the way Jesus' followers, because of course he lived after Jesus, but by the way his followers were filled with God's Spirit, that Jesus had to be, must have been a man filled with God's Spirit, filled with a deep and abiding sense of the Spirit and living fully and completely in God. So what does all of this mean for us? I believe that for too long we have been a church, and I don't just mean this community, I mean church, We have been a church, to put it in Jesus or Mark's words, that has compromised the commandment of God to hold to human tradition. We have focused too much on right belief, the guilt trip, on proper doctrine, on maintaining ritual. We have kept the plants running for the most part, but the souls aren't always being fed. If souls were being fed, our sanctuaries would be full every Sunday, and Monday, and Tuesday, and so on. Jesus is challenging us in all of these stories to ask, why? Why? Why are we here? What is really important? How do we make sure that love and compassion is always at the center of our community rather than human tradition? Why do we need to be fed? And what will really feed us? Why are we on this journey of faith, and what really brings us peace and contentment? I believe Jesus lived his life fully in the Spirit of God, fully alive on every step of the journey. He was unwilling to let the systems of his culture and religion compromise his quality of life. He wasn't interested in a guilt trip. This is what made him famous and infamous at the same time. Jesus, through these stories, is calling us to break bread and feed our souls, to walk calmly above our fears and anxieties, and to live in God rather than in human tradition. For true faith is a journey and not a guilt trip. That is the way of the wonder worker. Amen.